I was in town with a bunch of my college teammates, and we went for, this was our third bar maybe that we had been to. A few Guinness had been consumed, and one of my friends decided that I needed a bodyguard. I go to the bathroom, he follows me to the bathroom, I walk out, and this guy comes up to me and says hello, and I shake hands, and my friend pushes him away. And he says, "Sir, we're not doing," well, it was you. And I said, "Joe, I think this one's gonna be okay. I think he's okay." Welcome to another episode of Fitz and Whit. I am Ryan Fitzpatrick. That is Andrew Whitworth. And this is a Wave Original. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget, give us 5 stars, please.
Come on.
And follow the show on social media at Fitz and Whit. That's Fitz A&D Whit. New episodes every Wednesday. Whit, we have a very exciting one coming up today.
We do, Fitz. We headed to the big boss's house to have a combo with the man himself. So please give a big Fitz and Whit welcome to Amazon President and CEO, Andy Jassy, baby.
Yo, hip. Well, Andy, thank you so much. This is a huge honor for us to be able to sit down with you in your basement here. You've got quite the spot. And this is the second time we've been in here. After a Thursday night game, we're able to kind of walk around and look at all the memorabilia. And do we have a name for the place?
It's called the Helmet Head.
Okay.
Yeah. It's named after me.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, what's the genesis of Helmet Head?
Well, it was a book that I read in college by Peter Golenbach, who wrote The Bronx Zoo, but it was called Personal Fouls. It's about that. I think it's about that pretty disastrous North Carolina State season after they won the national championship when Valvano was still the coach. And there was all sorts of turmoil and tumult on the team. Nobody really got along. And there was this player on the team named Quentin Jackson who had this very large head. And I can't remember if it was Shackelford or Washburn constantly made fun of him, calling him Helmet Head. And it was a running joke in the book. And so I didn't really want to name the bar like Andy's Bar. I wanted it to be something sporty, but something that had some inside meaning. So Helmet Head.
Okay, it's like when we every time we walk around cities for Thursday night football, we'll go to different places. And when we're in Texas, we go into the cowboy hat shops, and they just shake their head when he walks in.
Don't have any of the fit.
I don't think we're going to have one for you. What is it, 8 1/4?
It's 8.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't throw quarters on there. When I look around this room, there's some pretty epic moments. Is there one of these sports moments that sticks out the most to you? I see Rangers, I see the Giants.
Oh, there's so many for me. Mark, that is a bottle cap picture of Mark Messier. The further away you stand from it, the more you can see it's him. And the artist who makes it roams around bars on Saturday nights at 2 a.m. and collects the bottle caps. I guess it's very hard to find the black bottle caps.
Yeah,
I know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun to hang out with that guy. He kind of puts the picture at a distance and creates it. But Mark, I grew up a lifelong New York Ranger fan, and I wasn't sure they were going to ever win the Stanley Cup in my dad's lifetime, let alone mine. But when they won in '94, that was one of my most favorite nights of my life. So I remember that very well. There are some pictures over there in that Giants Green Bay NFC Championship game, and then the Giants Patriots. This is the 2007 season, 2008 playoffs, but that was an incredible magical run that I don't think anybody had on their bingo card. The Giants winning the Super Bowl that year, and that was the undefeated Patriots team. The Giants were 14.5-point favorites against Dallas in the divisional round. They were 10.5-point favorites against Green Bay in the conference championship, and 2 touchdown underdogs against the Patriots in the Super Bowl. So those are some of my favorite in here.
I hate to bring the conversation down after your Giants high, but the Giants right now, it was one of our more entertaining games this season when they were able to beat Philly, and we were all wrong. We didn't know that they were going to do that.
That was obvious.
Yeah, it was obvious. Clear to you.
That was going to be one of the 2 wins, yeah.
But current state of the Giants, what do you think about Jackson Dart? What do you think about where they're headed?
I have a 22-year-old son who grew up here in Seattle, but is a diehard Giants fan. And I tried to tell him early in his life that it's unusual to have 2 Super Bowl wins. They won when he was 4 years old and when he was 8 years old. And I had to wait till I was 18 before they won. And we lived through a lot of bad years early in my lifetime. So he's getting his dose of being a diehard sports fan, which is unless you're a Patriots fan in the last 15, 20 years, you go through years that are harder than others, and that's what it's been the last few years. I remember, we sat down as a team when we were doing our preseason production kickoff, and I was asked about the Giants, and I said I thought they're going to be better than people think, because I actually do think the Giants have some pieces. I think they have a future franchise quarterback in Dart, and they've got a number one receiver in Neighbors, and they have clearly a number one left tackle in Thomas, and I think they have two pretty good running backs in Scadaboo and Tracy, and they've got some pass rushers, Carter and Thibodeau and Burns. I mean, they have pieces. It's been a difficult season, and I do think there's some things to build on. It's been a very difficult schedule, but it's hard to feel overly optimistic.
When you think about that, like from a franchise standpoint, I think when we kind of talk about teams, we try to look for identities, really. And I think like you talked about those Giants teams, I think of some of the identity of some of those players. It seems like to me, like when I think about the Giants, I think of a team the last few years that's really been searching for an identity up front. You look at what they've done defensively and then the offensive line trying to fix that. So when you think about that, like as an organization, I know obviously running a massive company like Amazon, like when you think of the Giants, do you think it's more important that they're searching right now for a culture that fits around Jackson Dart? Or do you think it's like an identity on the football field of who they're going to be and how they play the game?
That's a great question. You guys are well equipped to answer. I mean, I think from my amateur perspective,
you know more than us about Giants. We're taking notes over here.
First of all, it's really hard to know if you have a quarterback or not if you don't have an offensive line. We've talked about this before, Whit. It's just look at Daniel Jones this year. I mean, the whole foundation. If the foundation isn't right, you can't learn anything. And so, the Giants' offensive line this year has actually been pretty good, and I think it's been part of what's helped the quarterback play. I still think. Dart buys a lot of time with his legs. And so I think there's a foundation on the offensive line, but you have to keep building there. And some guys there are going to be some decisions in free agency. But I think you have a franchise quarterback, you have to prioritize making sure he's got the right offensive line in front of him. The coach, the leadership of any organization always sets a lot of the tone. And there's no one way to do it. There are lots of ways to do it. And the Giants are, going to have a new coach next year, and whoever they choose, they're going to have to set the right culture. I think they have a lot of young guys who are excited and aggressive and enthusiastic. It's very energizing when you watch them in the field. I mean, when they had Dart and Scadaboo together, it was fun. Very energizing. You really got only, I don't know, like maybe a half of Neighbors with that group or something like that in the Chargers game. But I do think they have a lot of young, dynamic guys who will be exciting to watch together. And you want to cultivate that while at the same time you want the team to play in a disciplined way, and you want to make sure that your best players stay healthy. I also feel like the Giants this year have had just missed tackles that have had. Like there's also an emphasis on the fundamentals. You can't pass, go, and collect 200 in anything that you're doing if you don't nail the fundamentals. And so I think who they pick as a coach, for this next chapter is going to matter a lot too.
He doesn't know anything about it. Right?
So when you've got your schedule set out, you just always have it blocked off for Giants games, or you always?
I do.
Okay,
yeah.
You're not taking any meetings during Giants
Now, the
games.
first thing that when the schedule comes out, the first thing I look at now is I look at what our Thursday night football schedule is, and then I look at the Giants schedule, and my assistant within 48 hours has all the games on my calendar. So Sundays are usually not a problem, but the Thursday and Monday nights are a little bit harder sometimes, especially on the West Coast.
Pull out just to look at the NFL in general and why you felt like it was important for Amazon to get into the NFL business.
There's a reason why 95 of the 100 top-rated shows every year are sports. It's really the last appointment TV that exists, and the NFL is the biggest, most popular league and most watched league in all sports in the U.S. at least, and it's been great for I hope I feel like collectively we've done a really nice job building a great experience for fans. I think it's been good for the NFL too, and it's been good for the Amazon business. And, I think it starts though with the product. It does anything else you want, including whatever business value you think you might get, doesn't really matter if the product's not great. And I think if I think about when we started doing Thursday Night Football, as you remember, a lot of people said, is streaming actually going to work, or is it going to be interrupted constantly? And, I think the quality of the production has been outstanding. I'm not saying this just because you guys are with me right now. You've heard me say it a lot of times, but I think the quality of our production team, our directors, in the booth, and then in the studio, I just think I think top to bottom, we have amazing talent that brings the game to fans in a different way. I think we've used technology on the analytics and the AI side. So things like defensive alerts, which allow us to circle somebody who we think is likely going to blitz the quarterback, or pocket health. If you've seen that new AI feature that basically color codes when a pocket is healthy after your own heart, Whit. But I think we've done a good job in kind of innovating on what the customer experience looks like. And then it's just good for the business. So because football is so popular, our Thursday night games are on Prime. More people want to sign up for Prime. We have drawn our audience up about 60% from when we started, up double-digit percentages every year. Just look at what we did on Black Friday. We had 17 hours of television. And so, it brings a lot of people. They sign up for Prime. They stay engaged in Prime longer. And it turns out they also shop, even if they came in initially to watch some of our sports content. So it's just been, it's been very good for, I think, for our customers and for the business. And I'm really pleased with how it's gone.
I think that was probably our first moment at the very first seminar when somebody got up there and said, we're pretty sure it's all going to work, but just, we were like, wait, hold on.
I think it was
what?
Wade.
Yeah, Wade. And we're like,
what was your certainty level that it was going to work?
We're like, wait, hold on. There's we don't know. We're freaking out about being on TV the first time. And we're like, wait, we don't know if this is going to work.
Yeah, I think the collective team has done an amazing job.
Yeah.
And just because it's been good, this in any business that's hard and challenging and dynamic, just because it's been good doesn't mean it's going to continue. You got to keep working at it. And we all have so many things that we're working on, in Thursday Night Football and the rest of our sports programming that we're excited about.
I would say when you look at it really from that moment to now, is there some Thursday night football games that you can think of right now that kind of stick out in your mind, these moments that have created that have been, for you as a fan, because I know the sports fan you are, that kind of stick out in your mind as a really cool moment?
I can read his mind. He's saying when Fitz and Scatterby were shirtless.
Yeah, I knew that one was coming.
I don't know why the photos aren't up here.
You would think it'd be up, right?
I could get Scat to sign it.
It's a good holiday gift idea.
That's right. Yeah, we know.
I do this. I think that I think the game itself, but particularly the post-game show that you guys did after the Giants-Eagles game this past year, I just thought it was electric. It was awesome. We were actually watching it we were at the game and we were further up. So I've been down there before, but we were further up. But we just watching how energized the crowd was, and both Dart and Scatterby were, and then I enjoyed the challenge with the shirtless challenge. It was kind of a chilly night that night, but you don't seem to be too impacted by those fits. But I thought that was a really amazing night. You always remember the first game. It just to your point earlier, Whit, everything is new, everything is an idea, everything is a rehearsal until you actually do it. I also think that it may have been obvious to everybody else, but we had all you can do when you're building something, when you're building any kind of product, when you're building a new broadcast, is you have ideas and you have hopes on how people are going to work together and how the product's going to come together, but you just don't really know until you try it. And I just think that the chemistry in our studio and the people that kind of took hold also. Just amazing. I think we all hoped it, but it's just, remarkable what you guys have done. And I would say one other for me, I went to the Thursday night opener this year in Green Bay. I had never been to Lambeau before, and it was in every way, it lived up to the hype for me. You guys have played there a lot of times, but where we did the pregame show at that house across the street
So
that had
cool.
that look, at the facade of the stadium, to where they planted the stadium, which is like right in the middle of the city with the hotel across the street, to the stadium itself and how on top of the field the fans are, and just everything about it was amazing.
And even the post game, and that's one of the coolest parts I think for us is being able to hang out with you and just being able to sit down and have a beer and have a talk. And I think your leadership, it just resonates throughout everything that we do. You were talking about those defensive alerts, and you're talking about the pocket health. Sam Schwartzstein's been a big part of that. And one of the things that he did is he reached out to us because he said, Whit, you played O-line forever. What do you think? How does this look? Give me some input. Hey, Fitz, you're the quarterback. How are you seeing this? Why do you like this? Why do you not like this? So for us, even though we're a very small part of that, to feel like we're part of this team and part of something, I think it starts at the top and it trickles down. But that's been one of the biggest joys for us in the last 4 years is having that experience. I mean, we don't have to like each other. We can, do the job and go home. But inevitably on Thursday night, Al Michaels is up and at the bar and telling stories, and gosh darn, we're going to be there too.
Yeah, I can't go to bed if Al's up. That's for sure.
That's the rule that we have. We can't go to bed before Al, but we truly do love each other, and I think it's just a trickle down of the culture that's been created in general. My biggest question when I think about you is how are there enough hours in the day for what you do and what you have to manage?
I would say the one thing that we all have that's most scarce is time. And so how you spend that time is obviously a personal choice, and there's no right or wrong. But I think most people are busy. I'm sure this is true for both you guys as well, are very intentional about their time, at least when they're working. When you have time off, you can do whatever you want. And so I try to, I wake up every day at 6 in the morning. I come downstairs, I work out for an hour, and I'll read while I'm working out. I have a bunch of things I print out the night before, so I've kind of perfected on the elliptical being able to exercise, read, and then I have Get Up, ESPN's Get Up on. And then I get to work by 8 every day, and I'm in meetings most of the day. And the first thing I do in the morning is I create this. I take my calendar that's printed out for the day, and then I create a prioritized list. And I staple the new day to all the prior days in that month. I keep them a month at a time. And what's useful is I always have 20 or 30 things on my list. I never get through all of them, but each day you don't actually want to. For me, I don't want to just keep doing the things that I had on my list the day before because they may not be the most important anymore 24 hours later. So I always try to reprioritize every day what's important so I can keep track of it. And I'm in meetings most of the day, but I try to save an hour or two a day where I'm not in meetings and I can just think. I can read about what's happening, in our business or our businesses. I can think about new ideas. I can write. I can communicate with people. And then I've tried to get home in time for dinner every night. And when the kids were younger, I tried to, have dinner with the kids and put them to bed. I try to see Ilana, my wife, and we still have a couple date nights a week. And so, for me, everyone's different. But for me, if I have a little bit of that. I can work really hard, but if I have a little bit of that balance in trying to exercise and also have some time with the family at the end of the day, helps.
I think of Fitz and I joke with him having 7 kids. I have 4. I just wonder, in that, you're talking about that emotion of I'm trying to balance everything, give what I can of myself to everything that's on my agenda. How much is the struggle sometimes with I think of it as we talk about all the time, did I give, I think of my kids, Drew, Sarah, Catherine, and Michael. It's did I sit down with Catherine long enough? Or did I make sure I listened to everything Sarah said from her day? But how much of that in your day when there's so many things you're trying to give yourself to, do you kind of in your own head make sure hey, you're comfortable with the things you're able to actually balance out and how much of yourself you're able to give each thing?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I wish there was a clean answer or an equation. But I don't always get it right. There are plenty of times where I'm in a hard meeting and I see the phone and can I pick up the phone or not pick up the phone? If it's one of my family members, I want to pick up the phone. If I know it's an emergency, I will. If it's not, I don't know. It just depends. But you ask yourself questions like that. Like everybody, there have been occasions that I've had to miss along the way, and I try to limit those. But all the ones you do, you always ask, was it the right call or not? I've tried to have steady traditions with the kids, and so now I it's easier for me because I had 2 and you have 4, and I won't even go there, Fitz, with 7.
I don't even.
You need for what I'm about to mention, you'd have to do every day of the week, but with 2, from the time both of my kids were 3 or 4, I would have 1 day a week with each of them where we'd have breakfast and then I'd take them to school. Okay. And actually, even now, with my daughter 25 and my son 22, we still have that. We don't always eat, but we still have that breakfast that we do together, which is just, even though you spend a lot of time together as a family, it's also nice as a parent to have that one-on-one time with your kid. And you learn a lot sometimes in different ways and than what they might say in a bigger group. And it's also a placeholder for you to share or to maybe ask some questions that where you have a chance to influence. I do think that, for most people, I don't know about you guys, but I would say definitely for me, that we have these tapes that are always playing in the back of our head. And a lot of those tapes were made by our parents or whoever played that role of being a parent. And so without being manipulative, if you can help be part of forming some of those tapes, it's a good foundation that the kids can draw on later in life. So I don't always get it right, the balance. I'm still working at it, but I try.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. My most embarrassing moment, probably, I've had a lot of them, but occurred with you and your son, Jack. You were in town at Harvard for Parents Weekend, and you guys were just having a drink. Don't remember the name of the bar, but Grafton Street, maybe.
Yes, that's what it was.
And I was in town with a bunch of my college teammates, and we went from, this was our 3rd bar maybe that we had been to. A few Guinness had been consumed. And one of my friends decided that I needed a bodyguard, and he's warding off the people that are asking for autographs. There's 3 of them, right? I mean, it was nothing. I go to the bathroom. He follows me to the bathroom. I walk out, and this guy comes up to me and says hello, and I shake hands, and my friend pushes him away. And he says, "Sir, we're not doing," well, it was you. And I said, "Joe, I think this one's going to be okay. I think he's okay."
Yeah.
But I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember it.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's been dealing with it for a while now.
It's been an issue.
I do remember. Well, what happened was I was with Jack, my son, and 2 or 3 of his roommates, and they had spotted you in the bar, and they really wanted to meet you. And they had pointed you out, and I said, "Oh, I know Fitz. I'm happy to introduce you to Fitz." And so I went over to say hello, and I was going to introduce you. And so I do remember that, but it was no problem. Believe me, way worse.
It was so embarrassing.
Way worse
for
things
me,
have happened to me in my life.
But that to me though, because now a lot of people will be like, "Well, you work at Amazon, Andy Jassy," and that moment right there is great, which is just. You're just a dad. You just want to be there. You want to hang out. And from all the interactions we've had, it's been the exact same way where you're one of the most important people in this world, and you're so relaxed and chill and take the time to talk to guys like us. I think that's one of the coolest things about you and one of the best compliments we could pay you. So we will always appreciate that and appreciate your time. Sure.
I feel the same way about you guys. I always enjoy hanging out.
Let me ask you this. I've obviously gotten to hear him talk about Harvard plenty. This is every podcast episode. I got to listen to Harvard, all right? But I got to ask you a question because I've heard him talk about it. What is it? I've gotten to go now twice. I got to go now. His son Brady's there, so I got to go this year as well. And it really just, you can feel it's a special place. But what would you say probably from Harvard that you took from there that really helps you be who you are today and maybe some of the lessons you learned there?
Well,
besides Pinocchio's.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you probably.
I was never a Pinocchio's guy.
You were a Pinocchio's guy.
That's gonna
and
hurt
my
your
son
heart.
Jack I was a Tasty guy.
Okay.
Whenever I had the choice, I
Okay.
went to Tasty. But I would say there's some things that were just college in general, like how to live on your own, how to, live with whatever, consequences of your decisions you make, how to organize your time. But I think specifically about Harvard, I think first, the people you're around are so smart, and it's very humbling. A lot of the people who go to any of these good schools are used to coming from their high school where, they had a certain, in everything, in sports, in academics, in writing, whatever it is. There's so many smart people there. And so you have to learn how to not try to compare yourself to everybody all the time in anything, in how smart you are, how much money you have, how successful you are in business, how athletic you are, anything. You can always find someone who has more. And so you just start to learn how to not evaluate yourself as just a comparison. The people I was lucky enough to become friends with in college. I think that when you're, call it, 15 to 25, they're such impressionable years. And I was just so lucky, probably my best friend outside of my wife is my 4-year college roommate. And we just, how it works. You just get randomly assigned on who you're going to be rooming with, and all they tell you is the person's name and where they're from. And one guy was from Boston, one guy was from DC, I was from New York, and then there was this guy from Carmel, Indiana, which I'd never really heard of. He's turned out to be one of my best friends, and I was surrounded by a lot of great people that changed how I thought about a lot of things. I think also it forced me to be resilient. I tried a lot of different things in college. Some of them were successful, some of them were not successful. And you're reminded by that high standard all the time of who you're around. And so I think one of the most important things for anybody, but particularly young people, is to have things that don't work out and to learn from them and get up and be resilient and keep going. And you have to fail sometimes. I mean, I think this generation sometimes of parenting don't want their kids to ever fail. And it's actually painful to watch your kids fail, but it's actually healthy, So I'd say probably those things. I had also, when I was at Harvard, I worked for the school newspaper, which is called the Harvard Crimson. And I was part of the business group. I was the advertising manager my last year there. And we started a new national collegiate magazine, which lasted exactly 1 year. Because the board turns over every year, and the next board decided they didn't want the hassle of doing it. And I would say we didn't run it in the most cohesive way, but it was an incredible entrepreneurial experience. And I didn't really even know what entrepreneurship was at that point. And I think while I was doing it, I wouldn't have known this was called entrepreneurship, but it gave me that bug for starting new things. And I really love being a part of new ideas, new products, new businesses. And that was really my first taste of it.
We went, so my son is a freshman there now, Brady. He's in Wigglesworth. And so I brought Whit, and we had the pleasure of seeing and smelling that dorm room.
Oh, boy.
4 boys. I was explaining to him the process, and I'm glad you brought that up, of you get placed in a room with random people that you've never met before, know nothing about. And that was such a big part of my experience, too. And then after your freshman year, you get to decide kind of, 7 or 8 people that you want to live with, and you move on. But I'm assuming that roommate's the one we met in Green Bay.
Yes, that's right.
Which is so cool. And these guys make fun of me all the time, but every city we're in, I have friends. I have friends that I went to college with, and that's the biggest thing I've tried to impress on Brady is just don't be afraid to have conversations, to meet people, to do those types of things. Whit and I actually sponsor the Harvard Rocketry Club. So the Fitz and Whit podcast is on.
Is that true?
It is. Yeah.
Is Brady into rocketry?
He is.
Yeah.
And so that's something that he's at least putting him out there. He's putting himself out there with, which is really cool. What about, because I struggle with this with my sons, is just them creating their own path, not seeing what dad does and you not pulling them in the direction, or pulling Jack in the direction of like, this is what you need to do. I feel like my boys feel pressure a little bit in that regard, and I got to imagine Jack does too.
It's a great question, and I don't know the answer to it. As much as I can, and as much as my wife and I do, we just try to let the kids forge their own way. When Jack is such a sports head, when he was thinking about colleges, the places I was often talking to him about were places like Michigan or Northwestern or Wisconsin, like great schools that had huge sports programs that I thought he would really identify with. But he really wanted to try to go to Harvard, and when he got in early. Ilana and I would say to him, "Are you sure? You don't actually have to decide. It's not early decision. Yeah. That's the trade you make." And he just said, "I got in here. There's no way I'm not going to go. So I'm not going to take spots from other people." But he has been, I think, really his own person, and I'm sure that he, people say things to him, know who I am, but I also think he really is his own person, and he went he decided he was going to do the Harvard Crimson, but he is the business manager, which is that runs the whole show. The advertising manager reports to the business manager, and he's just he's a really unique kid. He's got his own goals. I don't know what he's going to do. He seems to want to do business. It's another thing. When I was Jack's age, I wanted to be a sportscaster. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't do any recruiting in college. I wanted to go be a sportscaster, and he has done a lot of games on the radio in college. He's done football games, basketball games, and hockey games. And I've said to him, boy, with that much opportunity to call games, it gives you a real leg up if you ever want to try being a play-by-play or a sportscaster. But he wants to do business, and and I think he's had some pieces of that same experience I was talking about, where he's managed a team of 40 or 50 people, and he's gotten that bug for business and for trying to lead and build new things, and whatever he does is going to be great, and there are lots of ways to live life, and as maybe you predicted every step along the way. I have not predicted anything. I just told you I was going to be a sportscaster, and what I'm doing today is pretty different from that. And I'm sure it's going to be the same thing for him as well, and my kids. And I think that you mentioned something a second ago, Fitz, around what you told Brady and being open to meeting people. I think the thing that we've tried to encourage most with our kids is just to try things. Try experiences, because everybody at that age thinks they have to know already what they want to do, and the reality is you don't. If you know and that's what you want to do and you know it, good on you. But I think that's in reality it's 5% of the people. And so if you don't know what you're going to do, trying lots of different things and seeing which things you have passion for, and you don't know which ones are going to be the paths that you succeed in. All the things that have worked out for me, I just wouldn't have predicted. And so I think the same thing will happen for him, and he'll find his way, and we'll help however we can.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Some of the I think probably intriguing, just coolest people I've ever met. It's you're always in awe of the curiosity that they had. Wow, how in the world did they end up in this endeavor or doing this? And it's they had this curiosity to go try it, and they found something they were great at or they fell in love with. And those kind of things. And you talked about wanting to be a sportscaster, and obviously the sports sports mean a lot to you. Where does that come from? Did you play sports as a kid? Were you into a lot of sports?
I grew up first of all, I grew up in a family where my dad is a sports fanatic. I am too, but I learned at the foot of a sports fanatic. Right. So he had season tickets for the Giants. His dad had the tickets starting in 1925. He went to the game on Pearl Harbor Day, he as a kid, and he also has season tickets for the New York Rangers from 1960 to about 2010 or so. And so I grew up from the time I was 3 years old, going regularly, every Sunday to the Giant games and to the Ranger games. And the best was when they were the same day. You go to the Giant games at 1, we'd go visit my grandmother in the city, and then we'd go to the Ranger games at 7 and 7:30 actually back then. And so I grew up with a family that, and a father who was really very into sports. And actually a lot of my best time as a kid with my dad was with sports. We lived about 45 minutes outside of New York City. And I just always remember the car trips to the games and back from the games, just really quality time, talking, listening to music. And so I always had a really positive affinity for sports. And then I did grow up playing sports. I played competitive tennis. I played that kind of tennis, the junior tennis circuit.
I was on a tennis circuit, but I did play some tennis.
I played a lot. I played it very seriously from the time I was about 11 to 18, and I played soccer. And so I hoped, before I gave way to being a sportscaster, I was hoping I might be a professional athlete, but I did not have the talent that you guys have to do that. But it's always been something I've loved. I'm curious if you felt like this too. I remember when the last sport I stopped playing seriously was soccer. And I just remember when the falls would happen, I just remember growing up in the Northeast, that crisp, cold, feeling of the air. And it just felt like I should be playing soccer. It's hard to give those things up when you're passionate about it. But for me, real life took over.
Yeah, I actually do have that feeling. I just said it last week when we were in Tampa. When I enter a stadium that has grass, and I don't know what it is about the smell of grass. Yeah. But the second I can kind of smell grass, even if it has a little dew in it, where you can smell kind of that's that dewy grass, it just makes me think of training camp, and I instantly think like I should have pads on, or I should be practicing.
Step away from him when that happens.
Yeah, exactly. I instantly think I should be on a football field.
I think for us, he played 16 years in the NFL. I was 17. Like, it became such a part of our identity, and it's something that like we also want our kids to have, even if it's just the adversity of it, of being part of a team. I think sports are something that it's hard to teach that in other aspects. And so that's something that I think we have both imparted on our kids, is like, this is important for us, for you to be involved in some way, shape, or form, because it sounds like it really helped you. My son is kind of doing the opposite path of you. It played sports, and then his junior year of high school realized, I want to be a sportscaster. Now he's calling games at the high school, which is really cool. So I'll have to hook him up with Jack and give him some advice maybe on what to do. But
maybe. Do you guys miss playing, or were you, by the time you're done,
I can answer that one and say I'm done. I don't miss it at all.
You don't miss it at all.
I did get a little when Philip was out there playing. Philip Rivers was playing this last weekend. It was like,
could have been you.
If I could just do it for 1 week, maybe. But it's a lot. And by the time I retired, my oldest was he was a freshman in high school, and we had moved. He had been in 10 different schools. So there was a point in time where I thought, I'm almost done, and this isn't fair for him to continue to move. I need to give him more of my time. So that was kind of it for me, and I felt good about it.
And I was 40, so I was like, it's probably time to stop.
And won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, so it was like, hey, this is the best week I could have ever had in my life, playing this sport, winning a Super Bowl, and Walter Payton Man of the Year. And it was like, listen, we've done everything we can do. And it's actually, you talked a little bit about relationships and people you work with, and what we formed is having the relationship I have with Sean McVay. I'll never forget us winning it. A couple weeks later, he kind of makes a decision. He's staying because there's other opportunities out there. And he's like, I'm going to continue to coach here. And we sat down in his office, and there was like this little, maybe I could keep going. Just a smidgen of like, I want to hear somebody tell me to stop. And I'll never forget him being like, man, we are brothers. I love you. And like, you've accomplished everything you could ever accomplish. Like, you're good, bro. Don't feel like you need to accomplish anything else. Like, I would hate for you to get hurt, or for your life to have some kind of injury that could change things for you going forward, without telling you first, man, like, you've done everything you'd ever need to do. Yeah. So like, if you really want to be out there, it needs to be just because you want to be out there, not because you're doing it because he knows my nature. He's like, I don't want you to be doing it for me or for us or the Rams. And that's when I knew, like, you know what, like, for me, I'm done.
Were you going to retire walking into that meeting, or did that meeting make you think about it?
I thought about it. I wanted to talk to him and just kind of talk out my thoughts. And it was almost like the freedom of him saying, like, man, you don't owe anybody or anyone anything anymore. kind of gave me the freedom to go, yeah, you know what? If it's just me making this decision, like, I'm done. I don't want to do this again.
And I think doing Thursday Night Football has allowed us that soft landing of we're still part of a team.
Yep.
And we still do our meetings on Monday and get to see each other Wednesday and all day Thursday and spend that time together, and the creativity of what goes into a show and what makes it up. And even still, the post-game interviews and being at the game and feeling the energy, that part of it, I think, has allowed it to be a soft landing for us. So,
Let me ask you, Sandy, like when you look at that, like we talked about Thursday Night Football success, even Black Friday, now all the really Amazon sports, how fast it's growing and starting to enter other sports world. Like, what is a view for you as far as where Amazon Sports is going and the outlook?
Well, we're investing in it as you can tell. We'd done some tennis, particularly outside the U.S. We started then doing some soccer or football, whatever else calls football, and with UEFA and Champions League. And TNF was really our first broad scale big bet, and it's worked out really well. And it gave us confidence to, and it worked out really well for customers, and it worked out really well for the business. And it gave us confidence that we could build programming and do live sports programs. We tried NASCAR this year. We did 5 races in the middle of the year. That worked out really well. And we just launched. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We just
did Pocono.
We did.
It was great. We had a blast.
I want to do that same day Indy 500 and then the
We'll get Andy on the bus.
That'd be fun to do. But and then we just launched NBA and I think that's off to a great start as well. I thought the NBA Cup last night was fantastic.
That was cool.
It was our biggest audience ever. It was a great game. The right team from my fandom won. The Knicks winning. And I'm really also very optimistic about what we're starting this year with the Masters. Having 2 hours of brand new coverage on Thursday and Friday. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be very compelling. And I think, as we talked a little bit about earlier, while I think just the sport itself is compelling to our customers, and they're many of the most highly rated shows every year, I think we don't just try to show the same broadcast that everybody else does. I think we're trying to change what the fan experience is and how people understand the game. I love a lot of the analytics and AI that we're building in the NBA too, and when you have teachers like Stan Van Gundy and you have people who really want to, the game moves so fast. One of the tricky parts of basketball versus football, there's time in between plays, but basketball is happening so fast that to try to show people what's happening off ball or what's happening with various, pick and roll or different things in the game, you have to rethink how you use technology to make that come to life for fans in the game that's in a way that's not intrusive. And so I think in all these places, our customers care about it. I think we're inventing to differentiate and improve the customer experience, and it's good for the business. So I think we're going to keep doing it.
Can you use the crystal ball to look for the NFL specifically 10 years down the road, what it's going to look like for us and how we'll innovate and change?
Well, it's a really interesting question. And, it's I'm very hopeful. I mean, one of the things that when we were doing our agreement with the NFL, and the team and I get a chance to meet with the NFL multiple times a year. What we talk about is that we didn't try and build a partnership that lasted 10 or 11 years, the length of the contract. We were in this to be partners for 30 plus years. And that is the way we think about the big partnerships we pursue, like with the NFL. And, which games, there's all sorts of things that will change. But I love what we have created together on Thursday night. I think Thursday Night Football used to be kind of an afterthought. It wasn't produced like it was fresh or like it mattered. And I think people periodically watched it. I think the schedule wasn't consistently good. And I think now Thursday Night Football, I think people love it. And I think it's the start of the football season. There's so much football now, between Thursday night and then college on Saturday, which has only gotten bigger, And then the Sunday slate and Monday, that actually having the first game of the week is very appealing. And I think it's the start of the football week. So I love what we've been building on Thursday night. I think over time, the way that we use analytics, the way that we use AI to keep helping people understand the game better, I think has all sorts of opportunities. I mean, what you mentioned Sam earlier, who runs all our analytics and AI. He's so smart and he's so clever, and that team is so creative. And every year I get a chance to spend a couple hours with the team on what their ideas are, and only a small fraction of the ideas end up making it to air. Right. But what I really hope is that the pace with which we're able to kind of keep inventing, where we really show a lot of that innovation on our X-ray broadcasts, that the rate of those graduating to the main broadcasts continues to improve, not for the sake of having technology, but again, to make the fan experience better. I think AI will exist in all sorts of places. I mean, if you look at how AI is changing every customer experience, and then you think about the fact that we have two human beings stand underneath the goalpost to decide if a field goal or extra point is good. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of amazing. And I think AI will increasingly have impact on the game itself. And I hope, you guys were mentioning earlier that, our group, really enjoys each other's company, and you can see it on air. Having a team that really enjoys what it's doing, is passionate about the game and providing a product, but that really loves each other, you can see that on air. And so I'm very optimistic we'll continue to have a team that feels that way about each other and keeps innovating like you guys are.
I know we're running out of time. I have a question I have to ask you. There's a trophy over there with chicken wings on it.
Yeah, we got to know the answers
2017. Here. What is that trophy?
Yes, I wish I could tell you I earned that trophy. When I was a kid playing sports, I loved every trophy I ever earned, but that one I didn't earn. So that is, we have an event as part of our cloud computing business, which is called AWS, called AWS reInvent. And it's our big technology conference. It's always the week after Thanksgiving every year. We just completed it. About 60,000 people were there. And most larger technology businesses have a tech conference. In the first 4 or 5 years, 6 years we were doing AWS, every year the team would propose it, and every year we would say no, because we didn't have enough people to be able to ship all the product and features that we wanted to give our customers and pull off a conference, and because most of the tech conferences, in our opinion, were so corporate that it just didn't feel right to us. And finally, the team, we had enough people where we could deliver what we needed to for customers and maybe consider doing a conference, but the team presented an idea around a conference that was very, instead of being sales focused, it was very learning focused. It was not very marketing-y. It's a little bit kitschy. It's a little bit quirky. And as one of the many things we do there, we kick off the conference with a buffalo wing eating contest. Oh. And so we have set the Guinness Book of World Records for most number of people in an eating contest. The eating contest was called Tatanka. Actually this year we had a repeat champion for the first time. But that was the trophy one year that the winner got. I liked the trophy so much that they made me a replica of the trophy.
Oh, there we go. Hey, good enough. Good enough. Well, Andy, thank you so much, man, for letting us just come in and hang out with you in the Helmet Head. This is pretty sick, unbelievable, and a really cool opportunity for us, man. And we couldn't appreciate you more for the opportunity we get to do. And we obviously get to spend a lot of time together and live life together, traveling on the road on Thursday nights. And it's given us a really cool opportunity to reconnect and have our locker room that's outside of that NFL locker room, but it's still the same. So
Well, I appreciate being here with you guys. And I appreciate you guys. I always enjoy spending time with you, but I love what you do on Thursday nights. Thank you for that.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah,
appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.
Of course.
That is it for us, but we'll be back Wednesday with all the biggest news from the NFL. Fitz and Whit is a Wave original, and a big thank you to Andy Jassy for sitting down with us. That was incredible. We are truly honored. Thank you to our production crew, and thanks to all of you again especially you beardos, for tuning in. We will see you all next time. Peace.
Peace.